I will just start then, because I started reading the Bible on my own, and wanted to come to some more realizations, I guess more on my own, to see how I personally intake the information and perceive it with my own heart, my own mind, instead of someone else's interpretation. And I found some answers that I was looking for. Things, maybe just small questions that I had pondered, and that just makes sense for me in my life. Maybe not even necessarily my partner's in the exact same way, but I think that we are all supposed to interpret the Word of God, the knowledge of God, however you may get it, from a book, from the sun, from the grass, the trees, however you may take in the information. Just taking it in for yourself, I think, is really important. But this is a verse that Genesis 1:5, verse 29, and God said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth. In everything which there is life, I have given green herb for food." And it was so. In my opinion, he very specifically says to me that I am right in pursuing a plant-based diet. I've been healthier than I've ever been in my entire life. I have more mental clarity than I have ever had in my entire life. I actually feel the presence of God, so to speak, in me, around my family. It just clarifies for me that that's what that means, and that's how I took it. And it actually gave me goosebumps and made me feel something energetic when I read it. It made me feel good. I know there's a dispute between many about whether we should, and the Bible says elsewhere something else, which is the other verse that I wanted to reference still in Genesis, and this is after the flood and after Noah and his family. God also says that he will not destroy the earth again. "I will never again curse the ground for man's sake, although the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, nor will I again destroy every living thing as I have done." Genesis 20:22, "While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, and day and night shall not cease. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. I have given you all things, even as green herbs, but you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is its blood." In my opinion, that states to me, and the way that I live, that God has said, if there is an animal somewhere already with its life blood gone, that we can consume that if need be, but we shall not eat the flesh with its life. We shall not take that life. Just as it says we shall not shed another man's blood, we shall not shed the blood of any beast or other living being also, in my opinion. That's how I am interpreting what I'm taking in from this. And you said you had another thought, see it a little bit differently.
Yeah, no, not differently, but I agree. It's in agreement. Oh, there's so many places that I could go. I'll start with, in full agreement and feeling and knowing on the plant-based thing, like I've tried to convey in some videos. But what I wanted to say, I wanted to start from deeper is what we were talking about, getting the deeper message or layers of these messages. But it's the internalization of these messages. I was going to say that with what you said about finding deeper meaning, the difference I see is that you made these changes, you live these changes, You've come to that knowing on your own or in conjunction with the Most High. You've already come to that knowing. You've already made that switch. So now the words from the book, it's not so important, the book or the label or the this or that or where you find it, but wherever you can find the words, it's confirmation of you were right, because it was already written in such a way where you can understand it with that depth. But that comes with depth of understanding inside and internalizing all these different archetypes within us into a steward of life and protector of life. But since you've already become that, you've already made that switch from a consumer of life, just like I was, and I made that switch from a ravenous consumer of life to a steward or protector of life that cares for life, your own and others around you. That, yeah, you're already on that path and walking that path of not causing harm, not causing death or consuming death, or your energy being run by the energy of death, or supporting or condoning the systems of death. You know, it's because that's what it is. That's what it's all is. That's what has been built around us. Yeah, by man, because I would say, yeah, it's the evil and the childish imaginings of man's heart is what traps them, because in a state of childishness inside them, because the heart hasn't developed empathy and care for life, because of all the poisons, because what society has done and taught, and this all the sorcery of language tricks and actual real physical poison. It's man doing it based on greed, sin, that's just been created in their mind, because they don't know truly who, what, why they are, from a place of their heart, a place of being grown in their heart into an empathetic, caring man or woman, truly that cares, and truly that knows in their mind right from wrong. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And but that's how I was getting messages also from the Bible. And I might have mentioned that first verse in Genesis, because, yeah, not reading through the whole thing, I just look for deeper meaning when I look at it. Yeah. And when I look through it, and I find it constantly. Like, yeah, and to me, it was proof of the message was to internalize all of these archetypes of, care inside ourselves, and to walk that path, and to know that that is the path to be a steward of life. And it's that simple. And then to go deeper and somewhere else, and this is more for whoever may be listening, but about the shedding of blood and this and that. But since I did work for that beast system, and I did indeed take life because I didn't know better, didn't realize better, as I worked for someone else's ideas and beliefs that were instilled in me, well, I did take life, so I fully expect, or whatever, deserve to go in such a manner. I get it. And I'm way past being, fearful of that. So, but for the one that's sent to do such a thing, just let me tell you, please go back. I mean, if you are to do it, or after you might happen to do it, whoever might be paying you to do such a thing, realize you're doing it for materialistic things based off of a hierarchy of belief that was instilled by some sorcerers that stem back, going all the way back far as I can see, and that it's all to make you commit actual immoral action without realizing fully right from wrong, to believe you're right while you're doing it, believe you're doing the right thing for the greater good, which that's the deception, that's the lie. So when you actually take those actions of ultimate immorality of taking life, well, it's soul shattering, where your mind can fool you for quite some time and make you think you did the right thing and you're all great and tough and a protector and this and that. Well, actually, you actually shattered your soul into quite a few fragments inside. And the mind shatters into many, 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 many more fragments to try and justify these actions. And over time, that darkness just will consume you to the point to where it kills you, or will kill you. as I went through. So what my videos have been is an explanation of me going from that point of what happens at the very end and actually being able to heal and come back from it. So you can live. So you can live and actually live your experience maybe correctly for a portion of time because it matters. And to do it for all the right reasons. And to learn the lessons maybe we were all put here to learn and to recognize. And it's because I recognize so many lessons in myself and am repentful of so many things I've done and try to actually correct that damage with words and what I've presented. So I'm okay with leaving at any moment. Because I actually care about life in a much deeper way, connected spiritually to it, but not tied to the physical world necessarily anymore. It's a place of need for me versus want, which links right back to what you were saying. Sorry to go right. Sorry.
Okay.
I wanted to say those things at some point anyway. And I like to say that now, and I said that now because I've already said to my wife and others closest to me that I love that this may very well be my last year. Why? It's just a feeling. I'm not suicidal. I'm not planning on disappearing. I'm not running from anything. Empire. I'm putting out the messages to you folk in the Empire that might be looking at very openly to try and let you know deeper things about the systems that you were taught to believe in and you grow up in and you wear costumes for. They end up leading you down the wrong path. They just do, and it's designed to do it, to keep you from yourself. These messages, these deeper messages like she's talking about in the Bible, to connect you to your true nature, the nature of creation, and just knowing that you are under the Most High, not on pedestals in your mind where others are on these pedestals of greater than or less than each other, because that's what has created all the divisions. And that's how folks are so easily controlled and divided. Anyway, but it goes right back to the eating and consuming the plants and the herbs and things rather than flesh. And yeah, the healing that happened in my body too. The Bible ended up becoming confirmation, of what we've come to realize.
Yeah,
so
several things.
It's not a place to where, I mean, you can come to it either way. I figure, if you read it, I know if I were to read these things and try to really understand it long ago, I would have learned long ago probably things I should have learned. I know it.
Yeah.
I didn't. So I figure it can happen either way, though. Well, I know it because I've lived it, and so have you. Yeah. It's either, I guess you can come to a foundation of truth from these places like the Bible. You really can find that foundation to build inside oneself of truth and what's right and wrong by reading and getting the layers and depths of the words and internalizing the message and living the message as best you can. Or you can come to the same types of knowing by going down those dark, destructive paths, but you destroy yourself in the process. And in the process of trying to correct oneself and all the bad behaviors and addictions and this and that, that's when the true healing and knowing happens, that those words all along were the foundation you needed, but you end up having to build your foundation based off of your own destructive past. And that's a terrible way to go about life in this experience. And it's the wrong way, and it's the way that we were all, I can't say all, but all around me, were born right into without ever knowing. And and so on, with the injection of poisons and taught labels about oneself that aren't true, and to consider oneself any other labels other than a man, a woman, a child, a living spiritual man, moral woman, moral child. That's why they teach and portray you with the sorcery of the media and this and that to train you to just call your children kids, baby goats, because it's all the same type of dark worship and sorcery going on. It doesn't need a specific label other than evil or immoral or unnatural. I mean, really the simplicity, the vast simplicity and depth of it all really does come down to good and evil, right and wrong, morality, immorality. Has nothing to do with legality or government or all these other labels. Those labels are the problem. The ones that work in those systems are part of the problem without realizing most of it, just like I was. And that's the issue. That's who we need to get through to, all of us, whoever we are that know these things, for their sake and ours, because it's all being brought down on purpose to be reordered, and that can be clearly seen. We're in the times everyone have been waiting for, I would say. What everyone is waiting for to be here is already here and has been here. At least that's what I've been seeing and feeling and experiencing for the last few years. And I'm just saying, so it's important. It's important for everyone's sake and the sake of all our children and grandchildren, of which I have both, and I care. Thing was, it took me about 4 decades to realize how to care, and to realize that for the previous 4 decades, I didn't truly care deep enough about myself or anyone around me, and didn't even know how. So I obviously didn't know how to conduct myself, as was planned for most of us here. But we can all correct that. I have faith, and I know that to be the case, because we all have free will. And evil is a free will choice. You just have to know you're making the wrong choice before you make it. So when you're presented with these choices from those with a costume, either choice, that's the trick. Don't accept it. Don't accept the choice being presented to you by anyone out there that comes to you with a costume or a label or a title that intends to control you or tell you what's right and wrong. You have to get to an old place of right and wrong within yourself, because you live it, know it, and walk it. And then the snake oil salesman and the sorcerers cannot control you through your mind and the mind's belief of whatever they're talking about or whatever label that you might attach to. You know in your heart that there aren't those labels. Those labels are just made up words.
This is just a verse to go along with what you just said.
Okay. Yes, please.
Saying.
Yeah, thank you.
And the Bible reiterates what you're saying, and I know that you haven't read all of this, but that
I haven't.
The fear of God, and this is Matthew 10:27. Whatever I tell you in the dark, speak in the light, and what you hear in the ear, preach on the housetops. And do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a copper coin, and not one of them falls to the ground apart from your Father's will? But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Do not fear, therefore you are of more value than many sparrows. Basically, in my opinion, that's kind of going along with what you're saying, is that you don't have fear of these costumes, don't have fear of someone who can come and take your life, because they cannot take your soul. None of these systems in place can take away what we've been given, our souls, our energy, our light, from the Most High, from God, however you like to say it or feel it. It cannot be taken from us by any man, in my opinion. And the fear, we have to drop the fear about, this doctor said I have to give my kid this vaccine, or the doctor said I should eat this. And there is an internal knowing when something isn't right, and people have just forgotten how to use that. Since we switched our diet and got dyes and different colorings, I bought some processed products that said they were plant-based and all natural, and instantly when it touches my mouth, I can tell that something's not right. And those are the types of things that people have gotten away from. Everything is so unnatural now, and away from God. Pretty much, it's so unnatural and chemically created that people don't even know what natural is anymore. And so they can't discern, even with their taste buds, is this unnatural? They've been eating so much unnatural. Same thing with just things in life. they don't let their kids get dirty, and people are using hand sanitizer when our bodies are created to we have a natural immune system that builds immunity. We fast to even strengthen our immunity, and the Bible speaks very highly of fasting, and that we're intended to do that, to rebuild and reboot our body system with our own energy and the light. The Bible says that the eye is our lamp, and without that light, this has also been proven with scientism. The light, we have light receptors in our eyes. That's
true science. That's true, knowing that you can come to find that so that's not scientism.
Just with the light in your eyes, it's very important. And the Bible states that the eye is our lamp. That lamp that leads to, and we just have to, everything has to go back to being more natural, and living in just a more natural way. I think, and within my heart, that's what I feel. I just thought that went with what you were saying, and we have to drop the fear of these systems that are in place. And
yes, yeah, thank you. It does.
Even though we have no choice right now but to live among them, we can still go back to a more natural way and start to say no to some of these things.
Yes, that's and from those verses that were read, I say it to you instead of talking to the camera, because I've said these kind of things to the camera on other videos. But for me, it says, see, you say that they can't take our soul. Though for me, I wonder if we can't very well and do give our souls away to man that we put on pedestals in our mind, or the systems they work for, systems of belief. Give our soul to that, because for me, I felt, like I said, it wasn't until I almost died here, though. It was at some point during that healing process of switching everything and changing and finding what all the lies meant of my past. But at some point during that, and I tried to convey it on a video, something about the book of life and being written into the book of life, or something kind of clicked, a recognition that I had gained something. Either I gained or regained something. I don't know if it was there and lost. If I was not able to have like a soul from the very start, well, not very start, not conception, but birth. As soon as I was poisoned, did it go away? I don't know for sure, but and it was probably just because of how dark and how poisonous and nasty I got during the military, because I wasn't always like that, like I was at the end of my career. Nowhere near. So those poisons have something deep and dark to do with it, but I had the distinct feeling that had I died in that state to where I was that full of poison, before I had that feeling, a recognition inside that I did have a soul, that it would have been profoundly bad. Infinitely bad, in that I really did, and I do wonder that for others, that if they don't change and make the switch now, if they don't kind of find that recognition inside before it's too late, to do it during their physical life experience, and to feel it, know it, and then act rightly in that, and not on a pedestal, and not putting others in a place or a pedestal in their mind, but just acting on that, knowing that, and feeling that. If they go before they feel that, like, what does that mean for them? And that's what made me start to speak so much, because all of this matters for all of us while we're here. Like, to me, that's the and that's why I'm not. I've said enough now, and I have, the 4 decades of incoherent life that I can't remember, that was like a waste. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. It's just a collection of random thoughts and memories and images in my head that I lived through. But the last few years of, or about 4 now-ish, of just more and more coherent, collective, in the moment life living as it should have been, I realized for all of us right from the start, were we not poisoned, it was worth it. And it was worth everything I've said, and this whole life was worth it. Just to live a fraction of it in this coherent state of clarity and care. Why? Because I know it matters on the other side. And though I might not do enough to get through judgment, ultimate judgment on the other side of what that might be from the Creator, because who am I to say? I'm not the judge. Even if I haven't done enough, it was worth the effort I made and the attempt I made. And just to know the deep, deep darkness, the right words at the right time heard by the right man or woman out there that could save them from a soul-shattering path of darkness, and then help them stop others around them from going down those same paths. So that's why though I care so much about life, I'm also ready to go, because I'm ready to see what's next, and I'm ready to get to the part of answering for what I've done to the one I should be answering to. Because to all those out there I've already harmed, all I could do is say what I could say while I could say it to put it right, and there's nothing I can physically do to go back and do things different. Oh, this will be, yes. We will have to do an introduction. I'm glad I just started recording, because these kinds of talks I've been waiting to do with you together too. Just, yes.
Edit this out.
Yes. Oh yeah, I'm still treating it like it has to be a continuous thing. So yeah, just go ahead. I'll just go back to conversation mode with you. But those messages I did want to get out for whoever. So, I feel good now. Thank you. I needed this.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I needed
Me too.
to
I
say.
think I need to get something out. I said a few prayers for the cat today, and it just made me realize, yes, we need to put something out, because we can't
Get more engaged and involved.
Yes, we need to share the things that we've come to know, and just like that verse I just read, shout it from the rooftops, if you know me, type thing. And if this making these videos is the only way we can do it, and only some here maybe they can share, but we have tried very much with the people that we love trying, and it's not exactly working. Not everyone wants to hear what we have to say, but we're trying, and now this is just a way to try even further. And this reminds me, and this is still Matthew. He's talking to his disciples and the purpose of his parables. And this is what Christ said. Hearing you will hear and shall not understand, and seeing you will see and not perceive. For the hearts of this people have grown dull. Their ears are hard of hearing, and their eyes have closed. Lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears. Lest they should understand with their hearts and turn, so that I should heal them. And I'll leave my part there. And that just gave me goosebumps, because that is the goal for, I think, for what we're going to do together. And try to put some information out, and just us communicating with one another, because this is how we communicate in our house on a daily basis. Not that we don't get irritated and tell each other to hush sometimes or get on each other's nerves, but this is how I think everyone should communicate, the way that we have begun to communicate with one another. Yeah. And I hope that this helps other couples maybe, or families, to see the way that we communicate with each other. I think it's very, very important. This is the way that we're speaking to each other right now. Bible verses, if it sounds like speeches, whatever it may sound like to everyone else, this is also how we communicate with our 10-year-old daughter, and how she communicates with us, and she may join in, not her face on video, but at least speaking, because I think it's important for others to hear how a family can communicate in such a just a higher level, so to speak, and not talking about TV shows or Facebook or Fortnite or video games or basketball games, any of this garbage that man has put in front of us to distract us from who and what we are.
To control.
It's to control, and we need to get back to God. We really, and inside of our hearts is where God is always and has been. And if we could just open our hearts to it, I think everybody would be in a much better place, spiritually, physically, all of it.
I agree. And for me on that part, for me it was a different path. Like I said, those words ended up becoming reinforcement of things I came to from a different, darker path than most. But for me, those words mean this. That while I was in that place, I was in while I was in that place, that disconnected place, lost in my mind, playing out these different roles and acts, not knowing who, what, why of me from a deeper place in my heart, not at all, controlled by mind and belief and labels and things. My eyes couldn't see and hear what I was truly seeing and hearing, and I couldn't perceive reality correctly. Because my mind, my conceptualization in my mind, had nothing to go off of really but the programming. Because I was so poisoned, I couldn't think clearly and coherently to perceive what I was perceiving from a place in my heart, that heart-based intelligence, that place that is much more clear and powerful and interconnected than mind. Though others will tell you otherwise, and they'll scream and shout about it and throw temper tantrums about how mentalism and the mind is the highest. There are a lot of Godhead, so to speak, mind traps that one can fall into of one thinking one is the creator or a version of the creator. Though we all may be made in the image of the creator, so to speak, so is everything else. Everything is made in the image of the creator, because this is all the creator's creation, as are we. That's the point, I think, to get deeper, to get that deeper place from the words. Because to me, going through the healing process and coming to recognize the things about the light and looking at the sun and getting the sun into my eyes, and how hard it was at first because my eyes were so damaged and I was so dark inside, but that light helped heal me as my diet changed, as my physical body changed, getting the poisons out, doing what I was doing to actually change and reflect inside. Well, then thinking back on what I had seen and heard and going through all that, that's the healing of the trauma in the heart, that the heart has experienced. Each man, woman, and child, their hearts are full of trauma, and that affects their whole body. And then one tends to stay trapped in the mind to ignore that trauma that's in the heart because of the fear of facing it, especially when you have to face the fact in your heart that you were wrong and tricked from birth and fooled into making all these correct or incorrect decisions and choices that hurt you and the ones you love. It's hard. It's a hard acceptance to make, but it's an important acceptance to make, to realize that you were just taught to be part of the problem, but we're indeed part of the problem. And the only way to stop that is to realize that, do what you can to heal from that, and then let others know. Though the others you let know, some likely will not want to hear it and will be opposed to it, because you're letting them know, of course, as many of us have come to realize, you're letting them know that the reality they perceive is not the reality they perceive, and what they're doing is actually harmful instead of what they think it is, no matter what label you put to it. It's a lot of it in a lot of society. It takes each realizing that, and then for each not to start doing blame game things on each other. That's how we're going to correct this in a good way, because it's all being brought down on purpose right now. But that healing of the trauma in the heart's important. And for this, to get back to, sorry, I keep getting lost, but, or talking about other things, but to go back to what you read. You said Christ and Christ words. Well, for me, it was coming down all those other paths and realizing that, to me, that the Christ and the chrism and the oil, the chrism oil of, the mind healing, the pineal gland, getting the light, the functionality of the glands within the mind, the pineal and the pituitary gland actually functioning in unison, which makes the logic and creativity and reason come into unison as clarity is gained, as very real damage is healed from all the metals and things that have been put into the body. These things heal with nature and herbs and taking in the light of the sun. If one could see the sun through the layers of the thick poison right now that is almost daily, not that I can see through the ceiling, but that's what's above outside right now, and it's pretty nasty, like it usually tends to be. And that's because so many are making the incorrect choices in their behavior each day, only because of the compartmentalized nature of the reality they perceive and the labels they were taught to attach to the costume they wear, and they just simply take orders for those above them. All of which in all the systems intertwined don't realize that the ones at the top are making it so the ones at the bottom will never realize that they're destroying themselves and the ones they love, because they'll simply justify it for doing it for a paycheck, because that belief, like many other beliefs, has been taught. Man and woman have been taught to live incorrectly. The animals, we are supposed to be stewards of life, yet the animals, which don't have our ability to comprehend and perceive these things and live at a higher order of nature as a steward of life and protector and caregiver and taker of nature. The animals do not enslave each other. The animals don't force each other to go by some belief system to pay to live on this earth, in this creation, in this place, according to their nature. It's mankind and womankind that have taught mankind and womankind to do such things. And that comes from evil and darkness. You can put whatever label you want to put after that, past that, to build on top of that yet another pyramid of belief, but it boils down to evil or immorality. So, and that's the thing. I couldn't perceive that for 4 decades as I served evil and did evil. So, all the while thinking I was protecting, or had that false image of a movie playing in my head, which was incorrect. So, yeah, it's hard to get that through to others, because it's a hard one to admit. Though once you do, though, and you can strip those labels away and you can get down to the core in your heart and you can do that healing, that inner work, that shadow work, so to speak, all these things, it's a process, let me tell you, and it's physically uncomfortable and painful and filled with a lot of emotion that pours out as the comprehension heals of the perception of reality. The brain, as the metals get out, and then you can feel empathetically in the heart and intuitively know in your gut that, oh boy, you were wrong. But now you can know you can be right. And you can be filled with good feeling and balance. That's over time. That's with each man and woman's individual work and recognition of just where they live and who, what, why of them, from a place of depth in their heart to try and maybe find their soul. Because like I said, maybe I had that feeling for me that maybe my body, my temple, my house was so full of toxicity and evil that it wasn't a place where the Holy Spirit could reside, or the whole of the Holy Spirit, or maybe any spirit of all except for destructive darkness within me, without me even realizing I had got there until it was far too late. I know that is not the correct path, and others don't need to get to a path of good and morality by going down a path of destruction. That's the second version of this sorcery that's been used on folks. To invert things everywhere possible in the perception, and especially invert one's energy from a place of working at a higher order, from heart, guiding the mind, to mind just being run by the reproductive organs or the guts or whatever one is addicted to. That's how the energy in man and woman has been interrupted, and is constantly interrupted as they're taught to consume poisons and toxins and ejaculate all over the place, because because they're under so much pressure and they need a break and they need to release or expel energy. I used to do such things while I was in that state of darkness, and scientism says it's healthy and it's a natural body function. No, it's a means of control to keep one in an animalistic state where higher mind can't be reached because it's run by this just want for instant gratification, and then that release that one feels from an orgasm is a release of a pressure of darkness because it's an incorrect use of natural energy that was meant to be used to, well, reproduce and create another life. And if one has a child or as planning to, that is a very, very, very huge responsibility and deep one to consider. And you should be right before you do so, because my wife and I speak for me though, I wasn't ready for the child thing because I was still, like I said earlier, locked in that state of inner childishness because I hadn't grown up, hadn't taken responsibility for myself, for my life, because I was taught someone else would take responsibility. And I go ask someone else what to do at every turn to not get the simplicity of what life was supposed to be. So, that, yeah, and I agree. That's why I think these just talking, especially together, or you being involved now too, I'm thankful for that, because I think it is, I know it's important for others to hear others. It's just,
Yeah.
it's important.
Yeah, I guess the way we talk, I've realized that the way that we talk together also has encouraged me to want to do the videos. I don't like how I sound on video, but it's encouraged me because I want others to see how we communicate with one another and how we at least try to have a deeper understanding of what one another thinks and feels, even though sometimes we do disagree. We don't always 100% agree on the way things are all the time, and that's okay, because each of us is supposed to have a very personal understanding of things, and I'm okay with that now. Society has taught us that, oh, your husband should do this and your spouse should be this one way, and even the Bible says the woman should obey her husband. But I don't think it's so much in obey. I think it's we just come to this beautiful understanding of how we work and how we can interact with one another, even when we do not agree on something. That's okay. And I'm grateful that we've gotten to the place that we've gotten to.
So am I.
There's things that I do that I'm sure don't always make you perfectly happy, but you and you the same. So I guess
I can't think of anything really anymore.
Yeah.
Life is not like it was for me in the past, and our relationship is nothing like it was.
Yeah.
So I agree.
I don't even think what we had was a relationship.
It wasn't.
I don't know what it was. It was we were using one another.
Yes, I agree.
Fill holes in each other's hearts and
I absolutely
and going
agree.
about life just a total not just type of way. We were consumed by the devil, so to speak. That's the only way I can say to put it.
And that's why I said that to you. And this is to get into some of our other things for whoever's listening to some of our, the whole the process of a couple, or whoever wants to call these things an awakening process or whatever, coming to, you know, whatever folks call stuff. Having that in a relationship, yeah, it causes a lot of issues in the family where you're not on the same page. If you're not on the same page about stuff and some are still trapped in belief while others are trying to break belief, wow. And folk know what I'm talking about out there that are going through it, but this is part of why we wanted to talk about this and what you just said, because now I just said so many things to try and preface it. I might have lost it, but it was about
How we
us talking
started
together.
the journey. I know we want to do.
Oh no, our relationship.
No.
Yeah, at one point, and this was early on for me, and when I was months into my healing process. of not drinking, of not having the corrupt thoughts, of actually just searching and searching for things inside to find myself. At one point I said to her, I said to you, you never knew me. You don't know me. You don't know who I am because you never knew me, because I never knew myself. And you freaked out and had a meltdown on me. Like,
I did. I flipped out. That made me, I can't even describe how that made me feel. Like, because at the time, yes, you were going through all those changes and it was extremely scary to me.
And this is why we were bickering, because it was early on.
It was very horrible. But it felt like a knife into my heart, because you were right that I didn't know you, the real you, but I did know who you were. I felt like, and you were a dark, evil butthole, and I loved you anyway. So when you said that to me, it felt like a knife.
Yeah.
Like you didn't know me. Yes, I did know you. I protected and cared for you, even though you were not right in the head or whatever, you know. And it bothered me. I took it very personally. But you were absolutely correct. I didn't know you. And then when you started to emerge, that was scary also. I thought, just like it happens in society, I basically thought you were being a snake and that it was false.
And I knew it.
Like
I knew that's what you were seeing.
That's what I was thinking. And so I was very intentionally trying to push your buttons to make you behave in a manner in which you would before. Because not that I wanted to prove you wrong, but I guess I was trying to verify for myself too that this was really going to be a change. Yeah. That it was really happening before I would accept and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and go through this together. But I wasn't willing at first. I wasn't willing to change my diet. I didn't care. Like I felt like I had already been through so much stuff with you. Like, nope, I'm not dealing with any more of it. It was just very hard to accept that you were actually going through mental and spiritual changes.
I had said plenty of times through the years that I would stop drinking, and I actually did try. I was way too trapped by the darkness and addiction, so I always went back to doing the bad things. That's where she was coming from, and I knew that. So I knew she was perceiving me that way. That's just to add clarity for whoever's listening.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
That and the military lifestyle, and they had you, and when you started changing too, you also got, not only did you stop drinking, you got off all of your pharmaceutical based antipsychotic medications, and the fact is that you were never needed those medications. You just needed to heal and to live a more natural life. Yes, and they made things worse. They did for me as well. We both went through some issues with
we both did.
Issues or experimentation by the military hospitals. Not sure which exactly. Probably a bit of both. But they definitely destroyed our health more than helped.
Yes, it was on purpose.
It was very, very much on purpose. And our children.
And it was to put a time limit on us and a shelf life and everything, and that's why I almost died from it. Almost got me, but I'm not mad at you, system, or anyone in the system, just so you know. Yeah. That's why I'm trying to help solve the problem. But so we are trying to help solve these problems just with simple words. Just talking about it, because that's all it takes. Yeah. Mass awareness and non-violent non-compliance. It can be that simple. It really can. Because as soon as each one out there that realizes they're actually causing harm, the vaccines, the ones in the medical system that were taught to perceive physiology in the body in compartmentalized ways instead of a full energetic being, electromagnetic being made of physical cells and this and that, but that knowledge intertwined instead of compartmentalized, based on nature. Once those folk and the folks that are teaching the incorrect compartmentalization of information that work in academia and all these other systems of control, once all those folk that are actually out there participating in that fractured society realize it within themselves, they can quickly go through the healing process if they take the right steps and just get the unnatural out, purge from them their mind and bodies as fast as possible, and live in a moral way in their heart and perceive reality from their heart. That's how It's how change can be caused in a non-violent way from a more unified place in oneself. Once one comes to know oneself, I would say, and I only say that because I didn't know myself for so long. And that's another issue. When I said those words to her early on for me, recognize it still was early for me. So I would lash out a little bit in words or in tone because to tell her, like, look, you didn't know who I was because I didn't know who I was. And I didn't get the depth of that until I did. But the way I said it, I realize now, yeah, those beliefs, they're walls, those barriers in the mind that are created by the, perception of that man or woman, the way they perceive reality. Those walls don't have to be crashed through like that with words. You can find the door to knock on those walls, and I put something similar in a comment earlier, but you can more gently knock with your words on those doors to try and get a message through into the heart of the one you're communicating to. But that takes being able to come from a place of the heart and care with your words. For me early on, I was still very much trapped in a place of mind and fell briefly into a period of kind of that Godhead, so to speak, consciousness or higher consciousness mind trap. Only because I could perceive the depth of so much and its interconnected simplicity, or at least I thought. It was way too early for that. I didn't have that clarity yet. In my mind, I thought I could perceive much more and was coming from a place to where I really wasn't. I wasn't grounded yet, fully grounded here in life, in the moment, coming from a place of the heart. So my words I was actually trying to crash through walls and beliefs as fast as possible, but that was only because coming from that dark place, I was in a state almost of panic in my heart. And I hadn't gone through fully and got that fear out of there and got that balance or that equilibrium of my true conscience to know together. Conscience. Con together, science to know. Conscience. To be guided there, to know together with mind and heart what I'm saying is right and what's true, and to know together from heart to mind that my words aren't going to be destructive to the one I'm speaking to, unless there's a need for that, like the need to say these words in such a way to those ones within all of these systems to destroy those walls of belief as quickly and gently as possible, but quickly because, yeah, I feel like we're in the times everyone keeps waiting on and well into it. I feel like we've all been presented with this chance to make a choice, and the separation I keep seeing is, it seems more and more. It seems the ones that are recognizing it and choosing good inside them and doing the work to become what they truly are, maybe the good side of that, if you want to pick sides. Because if you're going to pick sides, pick a side good and quickly, but know what that means deeply in your heart. Because most are picking the wrong side and picking evil as their side without even realizing it due to whatever label, just like I did. It's not good, and I don't think there's much more time for that. Just because the manipulation, of all of us is in nature itself. It's far too unnatural and evil to stand. It is. It's destroying itself. And intentionally. Yeah. And then to just add to, or do you want to keep talking? And I'll just leave this. I could make other points, but I've already kind of made other points about stuff.
I say, just say thanks to anybody who's listening and put this up the way it is, and we have an outline kind of planned out. We want to do an introduction about who we are as a couple. Not just, I know Ron has videos up that give a lot of background on him, and he's mentioned the family and stuff, but I'd like to be involved in an introduction for us as a couple to, maybe really talk about how, go into a little more depth about how our journey kind of began from the point of where things started to change. Because I was not on board at first. I was very skeptical, and I want people to hear what we actually went through, because it was very frustrating, and I left a couple of times because I couldn't handle some of what he was going through, and there was arguments, and there was lots of tears, and non-understanding from me, which I know that hurt him, and he hurt me when he hit a point where he said he had almost like a God complex. I kind of felt like he thought he was a little better than me, because the way I phrased it was, oh, you can use bigger words than me, it doesn't mean you're smarter than me. And just comments that we would say to each other that maybe might help others through it. We don't want anyone to break away from each other, because we really do, as couples, as families, as human beings, we need one another, and we need to understand one another. And if we can come to that, it will just make things easier for all of us, I think, to come to some understanding with each other, for each other, about one another. It's going to be a good thing for people to see and hear. So I think we should put this up and then throw up an introduction video afterwards, just so that people can at least hear something from us. I think it's important to get our words out. It's very important, and that's what we should do, I think.
And I know you're right, because each of us, every man and woman that comes to know these things, or the deeper things about themselves and where they live, to tell others, yeah, I know, and I feel it is our moral responsibility to do it. And each one of us that does it, we're actually doing what we're morally responsible to do, to really try and protect and care for the lives of others. Because, yeah, as we each come to know things, like, we come to realize that others need to know these things quickly, too, and start to try and work through these things, these generational lies and deceptions, because we all are meant to live. Yes, it's important. So yeah, this is good, because I've been needing to get some words out again too, and to do this together. I've been looking forward to this. So yeah, this will be good. We'll put this up however this sounds. And yes, thank you, whoever listens, and feel free to do whatever. If you want to share it wherever, feel free, please. And yeah, we'll do more in the future for as much of that there is that left.
Yeah.
So, but, however, and I say but to dismiss that forever, however much that is. I know each of us have a limited future ahead of us, because we're physical men and women bodies, but infinite spirits inside, and that's why it's important. So this place we live in, man and woman being run by the little snake energy, kept in a place of childish darkness inside themselves, aren't going to be able to destroy this place. So you can go ahead and pretty much kill everything on it if you want, which is what's going on right now, but that's not the way to go about things. And we can all see that and quickly stop it if enough just recognize it and stop it. So thank you for listening.